Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This is United Pod. This is Devil's Advocate, joined by the great Brian Murphy from Stretty News today. Here today to obviously chat another day out in Wembley, Manchester United versus Brighton in the FA Cup semi-final. We're going to reflect briefly on Seville. I don't think many of us want to talk too much about it after the bad result we had the other day. We'll touch on it briefly. We're also going to touch on the former Jadon Sancho and what potentially his future could be at Manchester United. And also, we're going to talk about Erik Ten Hag's options, I suppose, very slim options at the back tomorrow and what we may think Erik Ten Hag, how we'll approach the game tomorrow. So, look, do get your questions in, guys, and don't forget to share the video as well. Brian, I suppose it was a rough enough game the other night. Like we always know, Sevilla always gives a tough game, regardless of form or competition or whatever. They seem to always turn up when it's against United. You're out in Seville, and what were your thoughts on the performance and kind of, what were your takeaways from it?
I suppose going out to Seville for the game, I think like a lot of Reds, we were half apprehensive about what was going to happen after the first leg. The first half of the first leg, we absolutely destroyed them in the first 45 minutes. Come half time, we were looking and going, Jesus, this could be a cricket score. They're not up to much. We could put away a few more chances. This game is dead and buried. We didn't. We had one probably massive chance where Weghorst could have pulled it back to one or two other players apart from Malacia. Poor decision making. We go up 3-0. Ties dead and buried. Didn't happen. We committed defensive suicide. Brought him back into it after Ten Hag's questionable triple sub. And we go to Seville needing to perform with a weakened squad, and up against the Seville side or Sevilla side that they're Europa League specialists. We've never beaten them, I don't believe, in European competition. And again, through the form, the last 6 seasons we've been knocked out of Europe by a Spanish side, and it remains intact. A dog shit performance out in Seville. Very lethargic, players like statues around the place. Very little effort put in, very little urgency. Even when we conceded, there was no urgency whatsoever seen across the pitch. A few individual performances that should be raising some major red flags for Ten Hag. It just wasn't good enough, Keane. It just simply wasn't anywhere near good enough. Any football fan, as much as we don't like getting beat, you can stomach getting beat if you've seen your side put in the effort and fight hard and go dogged. But they just rolled over like a sack of spuds. It was pathetic, toothless, spineless performance, which just simply isn't good enough.
Yeah, look, I think we've seen a couple of times this season. I think in big away games we've had a couple of I suppose questionable performances, and I think Seville was one of them. I think like you said, I think they were lethargic. I think their energy definitely wasn't there, and I know we're going to touch on like squad depth and mental and physical fatigue and things like that. But I think that, like when you look at certain players' performances, it's been kind of the same old we've seen from some of maybe our fringe players have come in. You've seen the likes of Harry Maguire who struggled, Lindelof struggled. We've talked about the goalkeeper situation like off air before. But like it seemed like there was a lot of players putting in 4s and 5s rather than 7s and 8s, really. And I think that was a massive problem the other night.
The whole issue started from the back. I mean, in modern football, you build, even though I'm not a massive fan of this playing out from the back and going back to the keeper crack, I'm not a big fan of it. When it goes wrong, it costs you dearly, but it's what the top sides seem to play these days. And when we're playing with Martinez, Varane, who are within reason press resistant, or at least are a hell of a lot more adept at handling a press coming at them, you go back to Lindelof and Maguire, you're back to Van Gaal days again of very, 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 very slow build-up play. It's Maguire to Lindelof, to Maguire, to Lindelof, to Maguire, to Lindelof. You're standing inside in the stand just going, Jesus, fuck me. Pass it to anybody but the two of you. Back to the Gea again. Who do you put the blame on for that one? 50-50. I don't know. Some will go De Gea, some will go Maguire. Doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it all stems from the fact that we can't play out from the back with Maguire and Lindelof on the side. It highlights the fact that the drop-off in quality, which is true throughout the pitch, from our starting 11, which, to be fair, our strongest starting 11 is a very decent side.
Yeah.
And not very decent, but it put Barcelona to the sword quite easily, It's not a bad side at all, but when you start dropping off with injuries and suspensions, what's coming in behind them is nowhere near what we go forward. I mean, the standards that we're aiming for and the highs we're aiming for, if we want to catch the likes of Arsenal and City in the league, you need to up your game completely. Like, we need to have that starting 11 or at least something at the same level throughout the season. You can't be dropping off from a title challenging type side back to a mid-table type side again just because you've lost a few players. The depth isn't there to allow that for us. So yeah, it killed us at the back. It killed us. Every time we came out, Maguire got the ball, and Maguire was funny last night because I've seen Harry Maguire play games where he receives the ball from De Gea and he'll play these semi-decent diagonal balls out to the likes of Rashford on the wing, or he'll find a half good decent pass, and he's more attacking minded as such. The last night he just looked like absolutely petrified to pass it anywhere bar left and right. He wouldn't burst out of the fence, he wouldn't try and spray a ball wide. Is it nerves? Is it fear? Is it the fact that everyone's on his case? I don't know. We all know he's not good enough. That's not debatable.
Yeah, that's good to see.
Yeah, it's not good. He's not good enough. It's simple. He's not the player to take us forward. I think Ten Hag has dealt with that situation very well. He's allowed Maguire to leave the side without causing many waves. And to be fair, to give credit to Maguire, barring a couple of self-ego type comments, he hasn't really caused any waves. He hasn't gone to the agent and he hasn't gone to the front page of the paper and acted like a dickhead, screaming transfer requests. So you give the fella credit for that. But he knows he's not good enough. He knows he's not up to the level that we want. And it showed. It showed massively. Do you
think he's suffering from because you've seen on occasion, especially if you look in his first season under Solskjaer and even the second season when we finished second, he was quite a good defender. Do you think he's since kind of the turn of the Euros, since then, that he's just suffering from a massive crisis of confidence? Do you think, maybe the stature of playing for a club of Manchester United may be too big for him, and that's okay, to a certain extent?
Yeah, he looks like he's absolutely shell shocked with the whole thing. Being honest, I never wanted him. I never wanted us to sign. I thought the transfer fee was ludicrous. I wasn't sure he was that good. I knew he was a half decent defender, but was he the man for us? Probably not. I did not. Well, definitely not now. But he came in with a big price tag, English international. You'd be forgiven for giving a centre half, English international, massive price tag, the captaincy. So I don't really hold any grudges on that. It just didn't work out. The job was too big for him. The role was too big for him. The captaincy became too big for him, and he's just not good enough. He needs to go to Italy. If I'm honest, he needs to do it. He needs to replicate what Smalling has achieved over there. Go to a game where it's slower football. The media aren't as up your arse as they are over in England. The fans are probably going to be a slight bit more accepting because he's not going to be relying on his pace as much as he has to try and do it for us. I just think he'd have a better end of his career if he just took off into the sun. And Smalling's done it. I can't see why Maguire can't, but he's not for us now.
No, I think, especially if you look at Erik Ten Hag next season, I know Julio's mentioning there in the comments us wanting to play progressive football. I think, Harry Maguire would have a very difficult time playing a high line, especially, if you counteract that as well with a goalkeeper that doesn't come out, doesn't sweep behind you. It makes that job even harder for, both goalkeeper and centre half. So, it's a very bad mix. And if I be honest, when you look at other teams, the type of centre half, they always have kind of same type of profile of player. When you look at Man City, I hate comparing to City, but if you look at when Ruben Diaz comes outside, John Stones can jump in there, or Kanji can jump in there, and they're same style of play. They can play the same style of play, and there's no adjustment that needs to be made. Whereas when Maguire comes into the team, you see the automatic drop off, and then you see he can't play to this system's strengths because he doesn't have the skill set to do. And I think it's become evident. And I think, he hasn't drops. He hasn't gone to Piers Morgan or anything like that. But I do think if Erik Ten Hag is to succeed at this football club, I think this summer especially, there's going to be massive decisions he's going to have to make in certain areas of the pitch. I think Harry Maguire is at tip top of that list in terms of getting him off the wage bill, because even with new ownership that potentially could come in, Brian, we know financial fair play issues are going to take effect this summer, and because of the way this club has been mishandled by the Glazers. So, I think there's a lot of big decisions that are going to be made, and Erik Ten Hag has a big job in his hands.
He's got it. You've nailed it there in the fact that this summer is actually, to be fair, if we call a spade, every summer for the last 10 years we've said this summer is the one. But for Ten Hag's own career as Man United manager, this summer is massive for him, because he's either going to create a squad that he can trust and that he can build on, and that will play the progressive style of football he wants to, or he's going to sign his own debt warrant long term when we look back, because this all goes tits up in 2 or 3 years. You can look back at this summer and go, this was probably the summer where he needed to make the right decisions. So he's got a lot of pressure on him this summer, with the issue of the ownership, of course, in the background. So we still don't know what's going to happen with that, which is probably worrying for him as well, because financial backing, what's the transfer kitty, what kind of transfers are they going to sanction, who's going to be sanctioning them. There's a million things up in the air, which is very, very much detrimental for our cause going forward at the moment. But one of the things that's hurting us, and has been hurting us so long, is Ed Woodward's legacy is still there. We still have an abundance of players. If you go down the list of the squad and you look at players that we deem, everyone has an opinion on everybody else, but if you look at the players we deem not good enough for United to go forward, most of them are still on Ed Woodward sanctioned massive contracts. Yeah. Can't fucking get rid of them, because they're all signed on to these huge contracts. No one's going to want them. They haven't worked out, and the contracts are so large that it's impossible to shift them, which has been causing us massive trouble for years. If he doesn't get it right this summer, I think he'll suffer long term. The amount of fixtures we've had this year and the amount of congestion, now given it's a crazy season with a World Cup in the middle of it and the Queen passing away caused some more fixture upheaval. This season was particularly crazy in the scheduling, but it's exposed massively the lack of squad depth we have and the lack of quality we have coming through. So I think he knows himself. Look, I'm not have to tell Erik Ten Hag what to do, but I think he'll be quite well aware that what we have in the background isn't good enough. He needs to bring in more, even if he's not bringing in like these massive superstar footballers, if he's just raising the level of what's coming behind what we have even, I would be pretty happy with that, because you drop off a midfield of Bruno, Casemiro, Eriksen, and you come up with Sabitzer, Fred and McTominay. I mean, it's chalk and cheese. There's like, put the three of them against the three of them, it'd be so one-sided, it'd be unfair. So we just need to try and allow us to have these suspensions and have these injuries without changing it into a completely different side. It's like the likes of Bruno against Sevilla last night. Bruno being out of that side. You can love Bruno or hate Bruno, but you cannot argue the fact that Bruno Fernandes is not absolutely pivotal to our Manchester United side. He is literally of prime importance, and you can see the team how it plays without him. I know he's a whinger and it pisses me off to watch him sometimes. I know he's moaning and he's fucking picking up silly yellow.
He's the only one who does it though. I think that's the crucial thing about Fernandes. For a long time before he came to his football club, we lacked a lot of personality in the team. I think he shows it now. Look, there's times where he might be a bit petulant, but even still, how many of our players go over to the referee and actually try to get something? Like United in their days when we were winning everything, Brian, we did manipulate the dark arts. We did. Of course. And there's no way to kind of moving around that. We did. Bruno does it. Look, it's not to everyone's taste. You see certain I'm not going to name these certain people on social media. We all know who they are. They love to jump on a Twitter space. And they often slag off Bruno Fernandes, day and night. Allegedly, they're United fans, by the way. But like when you see his impact on the team, how he presses from the front, how he knits together the play, like Bruno Fernandes is a brilliant footballer. And look, where he lacks discipline sometimes, he makes up for that in quality. I think, look, like you hit the nail on the head when we see him come out of the team against Sevilla. The lack of drive and communication and like character in that midfield really did show.
Yeah. The passing range was pretty much disappeared. He's a bit of creativity. I know you've got Eriksen in there, but like Bruno is pulling strings from the back. He's just a massively important player, and to lose someone like that, and you're bringing in players that haven't got anywhere near that level of talent, it's a massive drop off. It's costing us something serious the last month or two. Towards the business end of the season, we've been suffering. Casemiro has been picking up a few unnecessary red cards. Another silly yellow card last night, kicking out with a fellow running past him, which wasn't really necessary whatsoever. Which I think leads to a suspension for the next European game. Potentially would have been the semi-finals. Look, we're losing players. You're going to lose players to injury. We've been unlucky. We've lost quite a few key players. And again, we keep repeating the same thing. We need squad depth. We need squad depth.
Yeah, look, there's a massive summer ahead of us. I do think, like, look, if you get the likes of, let's say, players with big wages, the Donny van de Beeks, the Maguires, Martials, players like that off the books next season, you're talking a good nearly 700 grand worth of talent off the books, and you factor in your Tunes, potentially a few loan deals going out in the summer that we can maybe make a room for a bit, I suppose, quality in that depth and players who suit the system.
Yeah, if you can shift off, I mean, Axel Tuanzebe is not going to get anywhere near that side. So, like, for his own career, he doesn't really need to. He doesn't really need to be staying at Man United unless he's on massive money. He's just taking the wage. But Tuanzebe can go. Brandon Williams, again, is he ever going to break into the first team and be a first team regular? I can't see it. But, get the likes of those boys who are on the periphery and really have no real chance of pushing for a first team place. Get them off the books. Get them off to a new club. Let them have a first team football and bring a couple of players in for the money you get.
Yeah, and then look again that helps balance the books FFP, and then like look, let's say for example, then let's playing devil's advocate here. Obviously, let's say Qatar come in who have extra amount of funds to come in to maybe put into the transfer kitty. That would maybe then allow for that. If we do sell a couple of players, I think look, it's going to be a big summer. Regardless, like look, we're going to touch on obviously the protests led by 1958, I suppose, later on towards the end. But I think it's crucial. Like, there's so many things from top to bottom that needs to be sorted, and this summer is definitely one of them.
Yeah,
I want to touch on. I've seen you talk about during the last kind of couple of weeks, Brian, about Jadon Sancho. I suppose he's had kind of a stop-start. I suppose period in his career at United. He has shown kind of small bits of promise, but for large parts, he's had illnesses. He has obviously had time off with his mental health issues, and then obviously he's come back into the side. He seems to be he's struggling, quite a bit in the side. What do you make of the performances, and do you think it is? I suppose similar to kind of Maguire, is it a confidence thing? Because like we seen the Sancho before he came to Manchester United. He was a brilliant player in the Champions League for Dortmund, played very well in the Bundesliga. And the fact he's English, you'd like to think maybe he's played in England before, that he maybe might be used to the English game, though, as opposed to maybe like a Kagawa who came from Dortmund, who wasn't used to the English game. Like, what do you think is going on with Sancho? And like, are you concerned by, I suppose, his performances as of late?
Yeah, 100%. He concerns me. It concerns me in the fact that I don't know, has he shown enough that he can turn it around? I mean, has there been really that much glimpses of absolute world-class talent, just generational baller, as people were calling him before he came? I don't think I've seen. I don't think I've seen enough from him. It's one of those ones where you're torn. Do you want to see Ten Hag make a statement of ruthlessness and say, right, you came in for big money, you haven't performed, you're gone, and lay down a marker for everyone else coming after him? I don't think he's good enough now. I don't think he's good enough, let's be honest. It might be a bit harsh, it might be a bit early to say it. The last night, again, I watched him from the sideline, or from the stands. I was watching him and I'm like, do you ever break a sweat? Like, he was so lazy. He was letting fellas run back. He was letting fellas, their right back, sprint past him on attacks, and he was jogging. He didn't follow back half the attacks that came down his side. Going forward, he looked devoid of any creative ideas. He just got it and he stopped, passed it off. In comparison to Anthony on the other side, like, Anthony has had some haphazard games as well, but the one thing you can give Anthony credit for, he'll put in a shift. Like, he'll work his arse off up and down the line. How many times was he back in that right back position, fighting for and winding up their players by getting involved in it and getting in between it? But like, Sancho doesn't give you that, and if you're not going to give enough cover back, you have to be producing going forward, and he's not. He's not giving us anything going forward. He's not giving us cover for left back. You look at the change last night, like Dalot and Sancho on the left hand side versus a Shaw and Rashford combination. Rashford on the left can be absolutely devastating. When they're on form and when they're playing well, they can rip teams apart on the left hand side. And in fairness to Shaw, he bombs up and down that line. He gets involved. He's very aggressive to go forward.
Very good on the ball as well. Very underrated on the ball, I think.
good passing range, quick thinking too. You know, he's good. He links up well with Rashford, and Rashford will work back. But like again, we're talking about drop off. The drop off from Rashford and Shaw to Dalot and Sancho was huge. The effort, the energy, the ideas, the creativity, very, very, very bad. Very, very poor. So Jadon Sancho bothers me. I don't think I've seen enough for him to warrant the reputation that he may have. It's one of those ones. Do you hold on for hope? Are you stuck with him because of what you paid for him and the contract he's on? Or do you pull the trigger early doors, get rid and replace? I'd be the latter.
Do you maybe look at how Rashford struggled last year? Because we know Rashford really had a big, massive drop off last season. And do you look at maybe how Rashford went off to, remember he went off to America last summer and really kind of rebuilt he locked himself away from all the.
Yeah.
There?
Yeah.
Am I back?
You're back. Go on.
I'm back. Yeah, my connection just went there. Sorry. I was just saying, Brian, like, do you think the way Rashford went away after struggling last season, he went away to America and kind of rebuilt himself. Do you think Sancho needs to kind of do the same in the summer? Let's say, hypothetically speaking, he stays in the summer and Erik Ten Hag gives him one last chance. Do you think he kind of needs to do what Rashford done, lock himself away, get him away from distractions and kind of, I suppose, do a kind of a rebuilding process, kind of like what he did last summer?
But you just nailed it. He's already done it. He's already disappeared. He's already gone off the radar. He's gone away and been handled with cotton wool, which he obviously needed. Look, I mean, if it was a mental health issue, 100% I'm behind anybody who wants to get their sorted out, and I wouldn't give out to the man for doing so, or I wouldn't knock him for it. But he's been away. He's done that. He and the manager have felt that he's got over that hurdle or got over that mental health issue that he had. So if he declares himself fully fit, the manager reckons he's fully fit, and this is what he's offering us. It's not good enough.
Yeah. And look, to be fair, if I look at the options we do have on, let's say, the left-hand side, I think Garnacho this season has showed more in an attacking sense than Sancho in terms of taking on a player, working back, working forward, and beating a man. I think that's something that Sancho has lacked. And I think when you look at Garnacho doing it, Rashford doing it, that suits our style of play on that left-hand side. And also you have to take into consideration as well, Amad Diallo is playing very well in the Championship at the moment, and he's gonna want to try to get into the side as well. Facundo Pellistri is there, talks to him going on loan. I think Jadon Sancho has a lot of competition. I think Erik Ten Hag does have a big decision to make. That is a stick and twist at this moment in time. Look, I do think it's a difficult one because I look at how Rashford, had that difficult year and he came back and had good form. That's why I'd be kind of hesitant to let him go. But at the same time, if I look at other players who are there who are progressive, I can see how they suit our system more. It's kind of a catch-22.
The thing, I suppose, I'm probably being harsh in saying get rid of him now, but I'm basing it solely on the fact that Rashford's ahead of him. Garnacho, albeit he's very young, as you said, he's shown massive, massive promise. I mean, he's shown more to us than Sancho has, and Sancho's meant to be the starting player, and Garnacho's meant to be the kid coming through. So purely on a football reason, we already have a left winger or left-sided forward or whatever they want to call it these days in Rashford. We've got Garnacho to deputise. You have a couple of others floating about. Do you really need Sancho if he's not going to be up to it? Do you really need to hang on and hope he comes around, or do you just get rid and put the finances into somewhere else that we need it?
Do you agree with this comment? Because a comment come in there saying Sancho was the latest version of Jesse Lingard. Would you kind of compare their scenarios?
No, Jesse Lingard was a dickhead.
Yeah, we know you're not fond of Jesse. But look, it's a difficult one. I do just like. I always have that hesitancy to kind of not write a player off, but like when I look at other players, it's kind of hard not to write them off, because when you look at, like you mentioned, Garnacho, Rashford, and the way like Rashford, like last season he had one bad season. You look at Rashford's numbers; they've got better every single season, and he showed versatility as well. So it's a difficult one for Jadon, but I dare to say this won't be the last time this will be discussed on a podcast by anyone, any like United outlet.
Just to go back to that comment, because I kind of brushed it off a bit too quick. To answer his question about being the new Lingard, as much as he frustrated me and as much as he absolutely wound me up beyond belief with his antics off the pitch and his silly little celebrations. Like, I can accept celebrations like that and all this behaviour if you're winning titles and you're producing the goods every single week in, week out. But Lingard was a talented boy, in fairness to him. He had talent. He didn't show it as much as he probably wanted to see it, but he was still a half-decent footballer. He had some great games for us. He just...
Some man to score in Wembley, weren't he, for us for a while? He's scoring big goals for us.
Lovely little volley there in the final one year. But no, I wouldn't say they're the same, because Sancho hasn't really been acting them up like Lingard has been doing. Like, effect-wise on the team, like, Lingard was detrimental to that side. Like, he was bringing all this TikTok bullshit into it, and himself and Pogba and a few more of them were getting into this little thing about all the social media and the haircuts and the celebrations and all that crack that goes with it. Sancho hasn't really done that. I haven't noticed him involved in much of that kind of behaviour. Seems like a half decent lad. It's not that I don't like him as a person, whereas I thought Lingard was a dickhead. I just don't think Sancho is the right player for us.
Yeah, and look, again, it's like this. He like Sancho could probably go to a different side and a different system and play well. It's just, again, there's many big players have come to United and who have been great everywhere else, but when they come to United, it doesn't work out. And look, it just happens. Like, look, I always say this. Look at Juan Sebastian Veron. Everywhere else, he was a brilliant, outstanding footballer. Comes to United and he was a shadow of himself. The club wore on him.
What a baller! My God, he was like, he was. When I was a young lad, he was a joy to watch. But we've had that. You mentioned another one off Dortmund years ago, Kagawa. Lovely football. Came to us, didn't work out. It's not against the player. Some people are suited to certain leagues. Maybe Sancho's suited to the German league. Maybe he's not suited to the Premier League. Who knows? It's no slight on the person. Some people can't hack it in the Premiership, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And Robbie says, really glad you slept in for on Thursday. Yeah, look, I was like a dog all day, but then when I got to the game, I was like, you know what, I'm glad I'm not there. But at the same time, I said I'm going to make up for it tomorrow anyway. Like, look, I have a 4 alarm set, and I'm also getting up for the boxing at 4 o'clock in the morning for a Davis Garcia fight. So, look, I'll be in Shannon Airport drinking pints of Brighton in the morning. Don't worry, I'll be there. But yeah, like, look, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And look, there's a lot of players' futures up for debate in the next couple of months. But obviously, we talked about at the start of the show about last Thursday and a couple of injuries we got. Obviously, 2 biggest ones are Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez, who've been, I suppose, instrumental in Erik Ten Hag's, I suppose, revival of United. We've seen Lindelof, Maguire struggle in Seville. Obviously, Maguire is suspended for tomorrow. When you look at Victor Lindelof, obviously he's going to start tomorrow. I think that's kind of a cert that he's going to start tomorrow. Who do you think should partner him tomorrow? Because we've seen Casemiro deputise as centre half this season, and he did quite well there in a couple of games he's played there. But also Luke Shaw has also done very well. Phil Jones, unfortunately, is still injured, can't come in, so we don't have another kind of centre half there. When you look at kind of Brighton's, I suppose, skill set, like they've likes of Mitoma, Alexis McAllister, Evan Ferguson is 50-50 playing tomorrow. Danny Welbeck, obviously. When you see the way De Zerbi has Brighton set up, who would you prefer to partner Lindelof tomorrow, all things considered?
I'm after getting a shiver down my spine when you mentioned Danny Welbeck. Jesus above. Why is it so many years later and I'm still worried about him sticking on the back of the net against us? I'm probably going to go... I wrote down my team earlier for who I predicted or what I think he's going to go with. A lot of it names itself, but the back line, Wan-Bissaka right back. I didn't think that was up to much last night. I was shocked Wan-Bissaka went off before him. Lindelof obviously in the middle. And Lindelof, before I continue, Lindelof is a player that I'd actually keep next season because depending on what you do in the transfer market, Bailly gone, Sir Philip Anthony Jones probably gone, Harry Maguire most likely gone. So you're going to be left with Varane, Martinez. Lindelof's not a bad deputy to pull in here and there if you need him, you know. I'd prefer if we signed someone, but anyway, continue on. I'd stick Luke Shaw in beside him. And I'd put Malacia left back.
Perfect. Yeah, look, when I look at the way Ten Hag want us to play, I think like we've seen when he put Luke Shaw on a centre back, we don't see a terrible drop off on that left hand side in terms of playing out from the back. Like I think, look, if you play Casemiro there, you kind of lose his steal in midfield. I'd agree. I think that'd be my back four tomorrow. Now, I won't mind whichever one starts at left back, whether it's Dalot or Malacia. I don't mind which one of them starts. Probably in build-up, Dalot will probably be better on the ball than Malacia, but I think defensively on the left-hand side, Malacia is probably a bit more solid. So there's kind of pros and cons with either one we start at left back. But
I just prefer to go to the left back, rather than shoehorn and like that was essentially a right back.
Yeah.
Give Malacia the game. I know he hasn't set the world on fire. Still had a couple of good games, so I'd give him the nod, yeah.
Yeah, look, hopefully he can if Malacia is playing, he can redeem himself from that second half against Seville, because there was a couple of times he got caught and what's his name, Campos, you roast him. So hopefully he can redeem himself. Look, he's had a few good games this season, so hopefully he can do well. You mentioned you had a team out there, Brian, so I'm going to get your team off. You know, I know, look, the goalkeeper probably have David De Gea, and not less. Have you went adventurous and threw Butland or Heaton in there? Have you? Or
no? I don't think Ten Hag is going to wield the axe and chop the gear from the side. Even though, to be honest, if you asked me Thursday night after full time, I probably would have. Yeah, but Dave saves in goals. Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Shaw, Malacia, Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno as our middle three. Rashford left, Anthony right, and against my better judgment, because we're absolutely stuck, the nightmare of my season up front.
Oh, what was the podcast titled back in January on Stretty Cast? It was Fairhurst is on fire, your defence is terrified, or something like that.
In my defence, I did state that I was terrified at the time.
Yeah, look, you're right. You're right now. In hindsight, you're right. But yeah, like, look, I like his work rate. I like his application, right? Don't get me wrong. I like his application, but like, you can see the lack of quality there. Like, you know, there's a reason why he scored 2 goals for Burnley last season.
2 goals for United this season every bit. He could. It depends on what Ten Hag wants to do. Ten Hag seems to like the fella. He likes the way he links up play up front. Likes the way he brings other players into it. I can appreciate that if he chipped in with a few goals here and there. He doesn't, so he winds me up. He could potentially play Rashford up front and stick with Sancho left maybe, or something like that. But I don't think he will. I think he'll go with Weghorst up top, yeah. Same Thursday, I'd like to see Pellistri get more of a go. I like the look of him. Like, I think he offers more than Elanga does. Elanga seems to have been a bit of a flash in the pan as such. He just hasn't built on it whatsoever. So Johnny came on board first, looked half decent, went away in the summer, hit the gym, got ripped. Looked like he's after building his strength to really work down that side, but hasn't followed through. I like Pellistri. I'd like to see what he's able to do.
I'm back. My whole screen just went haywire there. What were you saying, Brian? Sorry.
I was just saying the link to the GoFundMe to sponsor new Wi-Fi for Keane is at GoFundMe/Keane's Wi-Fi is shit.
Yeah, absolutely. The link is in the video description, lads.
I'd like to see more of Pellistri, was basically what I was getting at.
Yeah, like, look, he's done well. He's a good close control. Like, look, he's definitely I think a better asset than Elanga. I think he has more to his game. I think Elanga, look, a big thing with him last year is he got massively exposed by playing too much under Rangnick. I think Rangnick overplayed him last season, and look, I think a lot of his flaws did get exposed. Someone said it's what Harry Maguire came and cut my Wi-Fi wires. Yeah, probably did, to be fair. My Wi-Fi was just as slow as Harry Maguire there. But yeah, like, look, I think with Elanga, he definitely needs a loan move next season, just to see if he's even. I'd probably loan him to a Premier League club next season. I wouldn't go as low as the Championship, because I do think you kind of could get a false dawn if you loan him there. I think you'd need to loan Elanga to a lower Premier League team to see if he's able to play in the Prem, and then if he has a good showing, you can sell him for a fee. And plus, he's an academy player. If you're talking about balance in the books, you can sell him for a good fee then, and it'd be good that way. But yeah, look, I don't think he has much for future. But in terms of Pellistri, I'd like to see him definitely get a few more games. Hopefully, if we can get top 4 wrapped up in the next few weeks, as much as of an ask that could end up potentially being results dependent, I'd like to see Pellistri get a couple of games towards the back end.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. That's probably the aim, I'd imagine, at this stage. Try to get top 4 confirmed, and then give a few lads a couple of games and rest a few more lads that have been played like dogs for the season. Like, I wouldn't be suggesting tomorrow's the day for Pellistri, but he's a player I was unsure of, and the few brief times I've seen him play, he looks like he's got something about him. So
he starts Uruguay as well, like, we're actually a decent team, like, as
yeah.
well, like, nationally. So he definitely must have something about him. You look at the attackers they have as well.
You said something there about Anthony Elanga, about loaning him out to a lower Premiership side as opposed to going to the Championship. That's my worry about Amad Diallo. Whereas Diallo's in the Championship doing well, is he able to make the step up to the Premiership? Looks like a very, very tidy player in the Championship. Concerns me a little bit if he can make it. If he can make the jump up. I mean, the jump from the Championship up to top 4, top 6 is monstrous.
Yeah,
one to watch for definite. But again, where does he fit into the side based on what we have at the moment and what we potentially could have afterwards? Where does Diallo come into it?
The good thing about Diallo is he's very flexible in terms of his position. He can play behind the striker, he can play on the right, he can play on the left, and he can play as a false 9. Let's say if we go like with that. So I think he can definitely he can fit all them positions. I think if you're looking at the style of play we play on that right hand side, if we get an Anthony injury like we did this season, we won't have to play Rashford on the right if Diallo is there. You know, and we know how Rashford's game changes when he goes over to that right hand side. So I definitely bring him back next year. Especially like when you look at the reports that like that have been consistent the last couple of months that Pellistri is going to be loaned out next season, then I definitely bring him back, especially if Sancho is still struggling. You know, I think just to have him there, I think like look, if he can't come in and deputise next season or even push next season, then you kind of look at him and probably getting rid. But I definitely will keep him. Julio's made a comment there about Diallo. He said Championship is arguably the most difficult league to make it in. You'd be surprised. I'm not worried about Amad Diallo. He'll come in for as depth as number 10 or the wing. He looks at that. He can play in both positions. And Kieran is saying that you're driving them mad with the pen there, Brian, as well. He has the pen out there. He's like Jose Mourinho with the notebook back in the day. But
Sorry.
yeah, like look
for you.
It could be interesting to see how Ten Hag uses him. The fact that he can play in a multitude of positions. It would be good. Someone's just thrown in a comment. They said that you should get guests on the show that go to matches under United, not this Daytripping Red guy. This is definitely someone taking the piss at Noah's Brian. Definitely.
Yeah, just to retort to that, James. Some of us were in Bill and some of us pulled out, and I'll see you in the morning in Kilburn. Have the Jaeger bombs ready.
Yeah, get the round in tomorrow. But yeah, that's thrown me there now. And Kieran says cheers for the shout out as well. Love the show. On that, we've mentioned obviously match going fans, and this kind of throws me to a nice segue before I get your score prediction for tomorrow, Brian. Obviously, 1958 have they're organising another protest for the Aston Villa game. Obviously, this whole sale with this proposed sale with the Glazers looks like they're trying to force their hand to get partial investment in rather than make a full sale. It's kind of looking like. It looks like, obviously 1958 done a lot of great work in terms of getting fans together. Fan protests have been very consistent since last year, since the 1958 group formed. Obviously, you're a chairman of a Manchester United supporters club yourself. When you look at how the 1958 are getting fans together, making movements towards, I suppose, getting the owners out. And first of all, what do you think of kind of what they do, and also you yourself as being a chairman of supporters club, Brian? Have you had any communication from them, and kind of, what are your whole overall thoughts on
it? Absolutely, and 100% supportive. I have done since the start. Have attended multiple protests, marches, staying outside, etc., etc. Fantastic to see a group take the lead in this with sustained pressure. A lot of people at the start thought it's a fly-by-night group of people that's going to do fuck all. It's going to be one protest and it'll all fizzle off. Like that empty Old Trafford hashtag bullshit that went on there last year or this year, whenever it was. But no, they've stayed the course. It's been level-headed, measured. They've been consistent. they've maintained what I think is the right level of protest without pushing it too far and turning it into something it shouldn't be for now. I suppose on the legality side, that is. Albeit the ESL protest, which broke rules and broke laws, probably achieved a lot more visually and impact wise. It's hard to ask people to do that. You can't. It's very, very difficult to ask someone to break. We saw plenty of Reds in court after that, so it is what it is. But the way they're going is probably the right way to go. They've been impressive with the level of protest and the consistency of protest. If you're going to, it's something I've discussed with lads. If you're going to the match, why would you not go to the protest? Is the question I would ask someone. If you're going to be going to the match on that day, what reason, barring you just want to stay in the pub and get pissed, which we do for most games regardless, what reason would you have not to go to the protest? Can you really hold your head up and slag off the Glazers and say you want them out and they're this and they're that and fucking hate them, but yet there's a protest in the same city that you're in on the same day and you can't be asked to walk down the road with like-minded fans and make a bit of noise? I like what they do. I appreciate the fact that they do it. I would hope that they get the support they need and they deserve when they're organising these things. Like anything, they probably won't always get everything right. No one ever does, but they seem to have got more right than they've got wrong for definite. And anything that they might consider themselves that that didn't work out, they've probably learned from it and grown and evolved as time went on. So no, they're a great group to have. They're a great asset to the fan base, the match-going Reds especially. Although to be fair to them, they've been inclusive of non-match-going Reds as much as they have match-going Reds. They've made a real effort to push the message out and get the people like that involved, people like who are overseas and can't attend games. They've tried to get them involved with email barrages of sponsors and the owners and that kind of thing. So they've been creative, trying to be inclusive. They've been doing their part as best they can, and it's better to have them than not to have them. So fair play to them, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, definitely. And look, it's something I'm 100% behind as well. And look what they've done, and they've been consistent about it. And I think they've gone about the thing the right way. Because I think you touched on, it's very much impossible to do a protest every week like the European Super League. And look, that was an anomaly, I think, in terms of the fans just had enough, and the fact it was in lockdown. Look, you can talk about there's many different factors what happened that specific day. And look,
it was a perfect storm of people generally being pissed off at life, of the idea of football being changed to that level and being stolen away from us, and just general unrest with lockdown and whatnot, and obviously the passion of your own football club. I mean, I think possibly being a tad arrogant, we showed up a few other clubs, our fan base showed other clubs how it should and could have been reacted to. We pushed the boat out that bit further than everybody else did, and the reaction from the media and the reaction itself overall was unbelievable. So it was a credit to our fans who were involved in the day.
Yeah, 100%. And look, there's many more protests coming, including the one that's on the 30th this month for the Aston Villa game. And for fans who are watching this, who are match attending fans, or fans who are overseas, I know we have a lot of overseas listeners as well. So whatever part of the world you're from, do drop down the video link description. The link is there for the 1958's Twitter page. All the details to the protest there. Make sure you like the tweet, share the tweet, post into all the groups you are involved in. And look, we'll be doing the exact same here. On the podcast, we're going to be promoting every single 1958 protest, any online campaign or anything they have. So look, 100%, like this channel is fully behind what they do and whatever plans they have going forward. And I know obviously the lads at Straight News are the same. And look, we're as a fan base, regardless of what connection you have to the club, I think everyone should be behind it. I know there's other outlets out there who haven't been behind it, and that's their choice. But if you're a Manchester United fan, you want the best for Manchester United, I do suggest that you do support a group like this. But we've a couple, before I get your score prediction, Brian, there's a couple of questions here for you in particular from a couple of our listeners. So I'll just get these for you before we end this podcast. First one is in from Reese. He says, Brian, what's been our best performance this season in your opinion?
I thought Barcelona away was unbelievable. It was a game I went into expecting the worst, and came out of it thinking we'll probably left it behind us, which may not fit the whole best performance of the season, but I thought we were that good that we gave a team on a stature as Barcelona such a good game. Again, we could have beat them, and we got. I just thought we played over our skins. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that was a brilliant performance at the Nou Camp. Look, and you look at their run of form. They smashed Madrid. They bet Madrid twice in that run of form. They're unbeaten for months in that, and unbeaten at home in Europe for a good while there in that run as well. So yeah, I agree. That was one of our. I suppose you were talking about most impressive performance. I think that performance probably was, or the one at Old Trafford, whichever one you kind of want to talk about. I think for me, if I had to give my answer to this, I think if you're talking a full 90-minute performance under Erik Ten Hag, I'd say Spurs at home, because we battered them that day. We really controlled the game for all the game, and we literally didn't give them a sniff. And it was probably the most complete performance we've had this season in terms of a consistent 90 minutes. That's probably the one I'd give. If I was giving my 2 cents on it. Kieran asked, Brian, what's the best game you've been to and why?
Assuming it's this season, I would say, again, a toss-up between Leeds away and Barca away, based on the fact that Leeds away is a special fixture due to the rivalry, the fact they've been disappeared for how many years they've gone, 15, 16, 17 years. So nice to have that game back in our arsenal again every season. Well, sorry, every season up to this season, because it's looking like they're going to go back to shit again and go down. But Leeds away was fantastic. There's a real vicious hatred between both sets of fans. The atmosphere is unbelievable, and we usually give them a stuffing. So that was fantastic. And again, Barca away, I went over expecting it to be not a great away end, because you're up in the gods, and not expecting much from the game. Thought the away end was very, very good in the night. The game was brilliant. Probably 2 of my favourite games.
Yeah, definitely. If I talk about my favourite game I was at this season, probably the derby. I'd say the derby. The fact that they went 1-0 up. Grealish thought he won it, and he thought he was that guy. And then, when Rashford scored that winner, I know Old Trafford's falling apart, right? But I thought Old Trafford was fucking genuinely going to fucking collapse. Yeah. The atmosphere, the whole ground was fucking shaking, and yeah, it felt good. It felt like we had our club back at that point in terms of real quality and winning a big game. It kind of made me feel similar to when McTominay scored that halfway line goal a couple of years ago. It was kind of similar kind of moment.
Had a few brilliant games and brilliant nights under Ten Hag so far, haven't we? We've had some really, really good performances that will really put the passion back in you, like the Leeds, Barca, Spurs, like that, City. Some really, really top nights.
Yeah, and I know, and look, I think he's getting us to believe again, and Gagan is saying get the badge in as well.
In tomorrow, Gagan. Well, actually, sorry, it's Gagan. I had to figure this out with him one day. James Hallis, our earlier jester, refers to him as Gagan, but it's Gagan. Yeah. Hello, Gagan. See you tomorrow, also.
Look, I'm gonna have to get that pronunciation right. I do apologize for anyone if you're in the comments and I butcher your name, please let me know, because I drive myself mad when I do that. But yeah, look, there's been many performances under Ten Hag. They've been good, and look, hopefully there's more to come next season. But we're gonna wrap it up there, Brian. But before I leave you go, give me your score prediction for tomorrow. Do you think we're going through to the final, and I suppose setting up a date with our noisy neighbours?
Jesus, even the thoughts of what they could possibly achieve is another podcast in itself. But let's be optimistic. I'll go 2-1 United, with a sneaky 1-0 win in the final, by the way. Rashford and Bruno. Rashford and Bruno. Go on.
I thought you were going to say Weghorst there for a second, Brian. I thought you were going to be overly optimistic there.
No, I was going to go Anthony. Weghorst, you mad? Anthony. No.
If here, look, I'm telling you, I know you have to catch a flight after the game tomorrow, but I'm telling you, if Weghorst scores, we're getting around the egg bombs in before you go home, and either we'll find some after the game, if Weghorst scores a goal. But on that, guys, and thanks very much everyone tuning in live and who will tune in on the replay later. Don't forget to like the video, obviously share on Twitter and stuff like that. And look, we'll do a review of the game as always. And look, we will be back next Tuesday. Speaking of the 1958, we will have a member of the 1958 on with us on Tuesday, and we'll be talking about the protests and also about what they're about and what they do. And Lee Lawrence and Phil Marsh, former Manchester United players, will be joining us then too. So look, make sure to listen in for that. That will be uploaded on Tuesday. But thanks very much for Brian for coming on. I will hopefully 4 alarms set for the morning. I will definitely see you in the morning. Shannon Airport. And yeah, look, we'll see you later, guys.